Walked in on my wife cheating, ended up arrested, disowned by my son, and branded abusive. Now they're both broke and begging me for money. Posting this here because too many people know my main account. I'm a 45-year-old man, married to my wife Sarah, she's 42, and we've been together for 18 years. We have a son, Marcus, who's 19 now and in his second year of college. We had him before we got married. The house we live in used to belong to my grandmother. She passed it down to me about 5 years before Sarah and I tied the knot, so it's been in my family for generations. This all started on a Wednesday, when I came home early from a business trip to surprise Sarah. I was originally supposed to be gone until Friday, but my meetings wrapped up quicker than expected. On the way home, I stopped by a florist and picked up a bunch of her favorite white roses. Thought it'd be a sweet gesture. I pulled into the driveway around 2 in the afternoon and noticed a car parked there that I didn't recognize. Figured maybe it belonged to one of Sarah's friends or a neighbor visiting. Nothing too suspicious at first. I let myself in through the front door using my key, calling out something like, "Hey honey, I'm back early." No answer. Then I heard the shower running upstairs. I went into the kitchen, put the flowers in a vase, and was heading up to surprise her when I heard voices. 2 of them. One was definitely a man, and the other was Sarah, laughing in this carefree way I hadn't heard from her in years. I stood frozen for a good 30 seconds, trying to convince myself I was imagining it. But the closer I got to our bedroom, the clearer the voices became. The bathroom door was slightly open, and through the frosted shower glass, I could make out 2 figures. I don't even remember deciding to open the bathroom door, it just happened. Everything from that moment forward is a blur. I flung the shower door open and there she was. My wife. In the shower with some guy who looked like he was in his mid-30s, dark hair, in shape, and completely naked. The guy, who I later found out is named David, immediately put his hands up and started rambling something like, "Whoa man, I can explain." Sarah screamed and reached for a towel. I didn't say much. Just told him to get the hell out of my house. He said he'd grab his clothes and leave, no big deal. But something inside me snapped. Maybe it was how calm he was acting, like this was just some minor inconvenience for him. Or maybe it was the fact that he was standing in my shower, in my house, the same house my grandmother gave me. I lost it. Grabbed him by the shoulders and slammed him hard into the bathroom wall. He tried to shove me back, and I punched him. Then I punched him again. Sarah was yelling at me to stop. David hit the floor, holding his face. Blood started pouring from his nose. That's when reality finally hit me. The blood jolted me back to myself, and I backed off. Told him he had 5 minutes to get out or I'd be calling the cops. He snatched up his clothes and ran out, still bleeding and barely dressed. Sarah chased after him. Now she's calling me unhinged and dangerous, saying she's afraid of me and staying at her sister's house. She says I could have killed him and is threatening divorce and a restraining order. Marcus called me the next day. He said his mom told him everything and that he was disgusted I attacked someone. When I tried explaining that the guy was sleeping with his mother, he just said that didn't justify assault and hung up. I know hitting the guy wasn't the smartest move. But walking in and finding him naked with my wife in our shower? What sane person wouldn't have reacted? My brother says I should have just called the cops, but what were they even going to do? It's not a crime to sleep with a married woman if she's on board with it. I'm doing everything I can not to slip up and accidentally violate this restraining order, even though, honestly, the whole thing feels completely unfair. I responded to one comment saying, "Believe me, I regret putting my hands on the guy every single day. But everyone keeps telling me I should have called the cops, like that would have actually helped anything. What was I supposed to report? The man was there because my wife invited him. That's not breaking and entering when she let him in. If I'd called the police, they probably would have shrugged and said it was a civil matter. I get it, I messed up. Legally, I definitely made things worse for myself. But let's be real here, catching your spouse in the act, in your own house? That's not the kind of moment most people handle with level-headed logic. I saw red, plain and simple. And now I'm the one facing legal consequences, while the guy who was literally naked in my shower with my wife gets to act like the victim. What really eats at me is how easy it was for Sarah to get that restraining order. She went to court, said she felt threatened, and just like that, I was legally kicked out of my own home. No need to prove anything. No real process. Just her word. And let's be clear, I never laid a hand on Sarah. Not once in 18 years. I didn't even raise my voice until this whole disaster started. But because I hit that guy, suddenly I'm considered a danger to her too. According to my lawyer, judges tend to err on the side of caution in domestic violence cases, which I can understand to a point. But this isn't one of those situations. This is my wife manipulating the system to get the upper hand in what's clearly going to turn into a brutal divorce. Another commenter advised me to start documenting everything for the divorce proceedings, and I'm already on it. I called the bank and set up alerts on all of our joint accounts. I can't freeze anything without a court order, but at least I'll know where every dollar is going. So far, she's just been spending on typical stuff, gas, groceries, nothing crazy yet. I'm also keeping detailed records of my own expenses since getting locked out. The hotel alone runs me $89 a night, and since I can't cook, I'm eating out for every meal. Add in parking fees every time I meet with my lawyer, and it's piling up fast. My attorney mentioned that if the restraining order gets tossed out as frivolous, I might be able to recover some of the money I've spent. But the real financial killer? The mortgage. I'm still paying $2,400 a month for a house I can't even step foot in, plus property taxes and insurance. If this drags out for months, it could absolutely drain me. And I think Sarah knows that. Honestly, I think she's hoping I'll burn through my savings and get desperate enough to accept some garbage settlement just to make the bleeding stop. We've been married almost 2 decades. I know how she operates when she wants something. She knows exactly where to push and how hard to push to make people bend. One commenter asked if I'd considered that Marcus and my son might just be genuinely worried about how I acted, not necessarily taking sides. That maybe I should try reaching out through someone else in the family. I've thought about that a lot. But the truth is, Marcus won't even hear my side of the story. He's 19, not some little kid. He's smart enough to know there are 2 sides to every mess, but he's choosing to only listen to his mother. What really gutted me was the way he worded his text. He didn't call me dad. He said, "I can't believe you're my father." That hit harder than anything. We've always been close. I coached his baseball teams, taught him how to drive, walked him through his college applications. And now he's treating me like I'm just some stranger whose only role was DNA. I even asked my brother to try calling him, but Marcus wouldn't answer. Whatever Sarah told him, she's convinced him I'm some kind of violent monster. And the worst part? He's never seen me act out before, because I never have. Ever. This was a one-time situation that got the better of me. But instead of thinking, wow, my dad must have been shattered to act like that, he's thinking, I never knew my dad could be violent. I get that he's confused and hurt. I get that this flipped his world upside down. But I'm still his father. I deserve a chance to tell my side, or at the very least, to not be completely erased from his life like I never mattered. Update number 2. We had the court hearing about the restraining order 3 weeks ago, and let me tell you, it was eye-opening in the worst way. The judge ended up dismissing the order, which was the only real win I've had so far. My lawyer was right, Sarah couldn't prove any actual history of violence or threats. The judge said that yeah, hitting David was obviously wrong, but it was a one-time thing. It didn't show any kind of pattern that would justify keeping me out of my own home. So, the restraining order was dropped, and I finally got access to the house again. But the part that changed everything. Marcus showed up to testify for Sarah. My own son stood in front of a judge and told lies about me. He claimed I'd been controlling and emotionally abusive throughout his childhood. He said I monitored all the communication in our home and made big decisions without even talking to Sarah. He painted me as someone with a temper who made the whole house walk on eggshells. None of that is true, and Marcus knows it. Sure, when he was a teenager, we had limits on screen time and kept tabs on what he was doing online. That's called parenting. And yes, I handled the finances and house repairs, but only because Sarah always said she didn't want to deal with that stuff and preferred I take care of it. The part that really wrecked me? When he said he felt relief going off to college because he didn't have to constantly be careful around me. This kid used to call me every single Sunday from campus just to chat about his week, his friends, his classes. And now he's standing in court, claiming he was scared of me the whole time? My lawyer grilled him during cross-examination. Asked if he could name any specific incidents of violence or threats. He couldn't. When asked if I'd ever laid a hand on him or Sarah, he admitted I hadn't. But then he added that abuse isn't always physical. The judge wasn't buying it. She said while family testimony matters, it's not enough without real evidence, especially when the accusations are vague and don't line up with the facts. That's when my lawyer brought out the big guns, Sarah's financial records. We had bank and credit card statements going back 8 months. Over $7,000 in hotel charges. Not just local spots, either. She'd taken weekend getaways to Chicago, Milwaukee, and even Minneapolis. Some of these hotels were high-end places like the Grand Geneva and the Palmer House, running $300 to $400 per night. On top of that, another $4,200 on restaurant bills, clearly for 2 people based on the totals, and $3,000 spent at men's clothing stores and jewelers. We also subpoenaed her phone records. Hundreds of calls and texts exchanged with David over the same period. It all lined up. She'd been having a full-blown affair for at least 8 months. Sarah's lawyer tried to argue that none of this mattered when it came to whether I was a threat to her. But the judge disagreed. She said the financial trail and phone records provided critical context for how and why I reacted the way I did. The restraining order was tossed. And right there in the courtroom, Sarah filed for divorce. Sarah's divorce demands were everything I expected, and worse. She wanted spousal support, half of everything we owned, and even a cut of the house even though it was my inheritance. Her attorney kept pointing to the assault charge, trying to paint me as unstable and unfit to manage finances. They were pushing hard on the angle that Sarah needed protection from my so-called volatile behavior. But according to my criminal defense lawyer, that assault charge would likely get knocked down to a disorderly conduct plea, maybe probation and some anger management classes, nothing that would stick long-term. What tore me up the most, though, was Marcus. After the hearing, I caught him outside the courthouse and asked point-blank why he lied under oath to support Sarah. He didn't even blink. He told me he hadn't lied, that what he said was just how he remembered growing up. I tried explaining that setting rules, having expectations, and making decisions for the good of the family isn't abuse. But he cut me off and said, "That's exactly what an abuser would say." Then he added that he was proud of Sarah for finally standing up to me. That was the last time we spoke. He's staying with Sarah at her sister's place, and they've both blocked my number. My brother keeps telling me I should try to mend things with Marcus. But honestly, how do you rebuild a relationship with your own child after he stands up in court and brands you an abuser? The divorce itself was nasty. I'm back in my house, but it feels hollow, like a shell of what it used to be. There are nights I wonder if I should have just walked away the moment I caught them together. Filed for divorce quietly. Avoided the public mess, the cops, the courtrooms, the betrayal. Update 3. The divorce was finalized last week and, against all odds, it ended far better than I had imagined. The judge didn't buy Sarah's performance. Her abuse accusations fell apart under the weight of all the financial records we presented. Turns out, cheating on your husband and blowing thousands of dollars on another man doesn't win much sympathy in a courtroom. The judge ruled that the house was mine, plain and simple, an inherited asset. Sarah tried to argue that she was owed for renovations, but my lawyer laid out receipts proving that all the major upgrades, the kitchen remodel, the basement finish, the new roof, were funded solely from my income. She got $12,000 to reflect her contribution toward general improvements. Beyond that, the division of property was based on financial input and behavior during the marriage. Sarah walked away with her car, personal belongings, and $25,000 from our joint savings. I kept my car, retirement accounts, and everything else. No alimony, because of the infidelity and her earning potential. The judge looked her lawyer dead in the eye when they tried to argue for more money and said, "Someone who spends $15,000 on hotel stays and gifts for a boyfriend clearly knows how to handle finances just fine." Sarah just broke down in tears, wailing about how unfair it was, how she gave up her career for our family. Total nonsense. She worked part-time by choice and quit her job 3 years ago because she didn't want to deal with office drama, not because I forced her to. The judge didn't buy any of it. She reminded Sarah that cheating has consequences, and using marital funds to bankroll an affair was a serious breach of financial trust. Sarah was told she could appeal, but the decision was well within legal precedent. Marcus was sitting there during the final hearing, still firmly in his mother's corner. When the verdict came down, he stood up and shouted, "This is BS. She has nowhere to go." A bailiff had to step in and make him sit down. Outside in the parking lot, Marcus followed me and started yelling. He accused me of ruining Sarah's life and called me heartless for not leaving her with more. I told him she ruined her own life when she chose to cheat. He shot back with, "A real man takes care of his ex-wife no matter what." That was it for me. I snapped. I told him, a real son doesn't lie under oath to help his cheating mother bury his father. I told him if he wants to play along with her victim act, then he can help her on his own. He said he planned to, but admitted he didn't have the money. I told him, "Well, now you've got even less, because I'm done paying for your tuition and your living expenses." He looked stunned, like it never occurred to him that choosing sides might come with a cost. He told me he couldn't stay in school without my support. I said maybe he should have thought about that before betraying me in court. Sarah overheard the whole thing and came running over, screaming that I couldn't just cut Marcus off for telling the truth. I told her Marcus lied, and now, like her, he has to live with the fallout. Right now, Sarah's crashing at her sister's, but the brother-in-law is apparently getting fed up. She applied for a few apartments but keeps getting rejected. Her credit's trashed and she hasn't worked consistently in years. Most places want first and last month's rent plus deposit, and even with her $25,000 from the divorce, she's struggling. Marcus went back to college, but he called me last week begging for help. Said his student loans won't cover everything and he might have to drop out. I told him to get a job like every other broke student, or, if he wants my help, to start by making things right. He asked what that meant. I told him, "You want my support again? Then you admit you lied in court and you apologize publicly for trying to ruin my life." He said he didn't lie, that he was just telling his truth. I told him that his truth nearly cost me my house and my reputation, and I'm not interested in anyone's twisted version of reality. For the past few months, I've been living alone in my house, and honestly, it's been peaceful. No drama. No tiptoeing around someone's mood swings. No wondering where my wife really is when she's just out running errands. I eat what I want, watch what I want, sleep in peace. My brother keeps saying I'm being too hard on Marcus. That he's just a confused kid caught in the middle of a bad situation. But I don't buy that. Marcus made a grown man's choice to lie under oath, to help his mom screw me over, and grown men live with grown consequences. Lately, Sarah's been trying to reach me through mutual friends, asking if I'd lend her money for a deposit on an apartment. People keep saying, do it for Marcus' sake. But I don't owe Sarah a damn thing. And Marcus made his choice. I worked myself into the ground for 18 years building a life for that family. And when things got rough, they tossed me aside like I meant nothing. Now they can figure out how to build something of their own. Final update. It's been 2 years. Didn't think I'd ever write another update, but apparently karma wasn't quite finished. Last September, Marcus got married to his college girlfriend, Emma. I wasn't invited. No surprise there, we haven't spoken since court. I only heard about it through my brother. Sarah apparently paid for most of the wedding on borrowed money, trying to look like everything was under control. Emma always seemed like a decent person when I met her once, before everything blew up. Smart, came from a solid family, studying accounting. I used to think Marcus was lucky to have her. Turns out, he didn't think so. 3 weeks ago, Emma found out he'd been cheating. And not just with anyone, he was hooking up with a married woman he met through Sarah's new job. Her name's Diane, 35, married, 2 kids. The whole thing came crashing down when Diane's husband found the texts and confronted her. She came clean, and the husband messaged Emma directly. Apparently, Marcus had been spending money they didn't have on hotel rooms and fancy dinners for this woman, just like his mom did with David. History repeating itself. Emma kicked him out on the spot, filed for divorce within the week, and moved back in with her parents. She drained their joint account and returned her wedding ring by hurling it at Marcus's face in the parking lot of his apartment. And here's where I come in. 2 weeks ago, Marcus called me crying. Said Emma left him broke. He can't afford rent or his car payment. Said he made a mistake and now he understands what I went through. He asked me to help pay for his lawyer and maybe float him some rent money. I asked if this was his way of apologizing for what he did in court. He said no, he just wanted to protect his mom. I told him to call me back when he was ready to own up to the lies and ask for my forgiveness. Then I hung up. Next day, Sarah called. She's still struggling. Her job pays pennies because she has no clients yet. Her brother-in-law finally kicked her out, so now she's staying in some $300 a week motel. She wanted money for an apartment deposit for the sake of the family and to help Marcus get through his divorce. I laughed right into the phone. I reminded her that Marcus picked his side. And she picked David in my shower. She started crying, saying she made mistakes and I was being cruel. That the affair wasn't supposed to go that far. I told her, spending $7,000 on another man isn't a slip-up. It's a choice you made, over and over. Then she tried guilt-tripping me. Said helping now would show I was the bigger person, that I had truly forgiven her. I told her forgiveness doesn't mean writing checks for people who stabbed you in the back. Forgiveness means I'm not walking around angry. But it doesn't mean I forget. And I sure as hell don't pay to help them clean up the mess they made. Marcus has called a few more times since. Every call, he sounds more desperate. Behind on rent. Cars close to being repossessed. Dropped out of college. Works at a pizza joint for $12 an hour. Last time he called, he finally said he was sorry for testifying against me. But he followed it up with, I thought I was doing the right thing. I told him that's not an apology. That's an excuse. Interestingly, Emma reached out on Facebook a few weeks back. Said she wanted to apologize for believing the lies during the divorce. Said now that she's going through her own betrayal, she understands what it feels like to be betrayed by people you trust. As far as I'm concerned, I'm done with both of them. They're adults. They made their choices. And now they can live with the consequences. I spent too many years trying to fix problems I didn't cause. I'm nobody's safety net anymore.